Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to do a deep dive into modern dating. It's something that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds. And, we've got a really interesting mix of sources for this one.
Yeah.
Relationship experts, cultural commentators, even some reality TV personalities weighing in on, how we find love in this day and age.
Yeah. It's a fascinating topic.
It really is.
It really is, because it touches on so many different aspects of our lives, like technology, social trends, psychology, even politics. It's really a fascinating look at just how interconnected everything is.
Yeah, and it feels like there's this constant tension between the endless choices technology offers and the desire for genuine connection.
That's a great point. I mean, it really is like we're drowning in options, right?
Right.
I mean, you can swipe through hundreds of profiles on these dating apps, but does that actually bring us closer to finding a meaningful relationship?
Right, maybe we need to shift our focus from quantity to quality. Instead of just looking for the one, maybe we need to be more open to exploring different connections and seeing where they lead.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think we often get caught up in this idea of a perfect match. But in reality, relationships are built on shared experiences, communication, and a willingness to grow together.
Well, and speaking of dating apps, one of the things that really struck me from these sources is how prevalent ghosting has become.
Oh, yeah.
One study even found that nearly 2/3 of people have both ghosted someone and been ghosted themselves.
That's wild, but it speaks to, I think, a larger trend of conflict avoidance. It's easier to just disappear than to have those difficult conversations.
And it makes you wonder, are we losing the ability to communicate effectively?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't always this easy to just cut someone off.
Right.
Before cell phones, you actually had to put in effort to break plans or end things.
That's true. And I think without that constant digital connection, there is more accountability in our interaction.
Yeah.
But now it's like we're prioritizing convenience over genuine connection. And that can have real consequences for our social skills and our ability to form those lasting bonds.
It's almost as if technology is making us forget how to be present and vulnerable with each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And on that note, we can't talk about modern dating without acknowledging the impact of social media.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like platforms like Instagram and OnlyFans are creating these unrealistic beauty standards and expectations.
Yeah, it's definitely playing a role in how we perceive attractiveness and what we look for in a partner. There's this pressure to present this curated version of ourselves, which makes it harder to connect on a deeper level.
I remember that viral guy in finance dating profile that was circulating online.
Oh, yeah.
He had this incredibly specific list of criteria for his ideal woman.
Oh, God.
Like her height, her income.
Wow.
Even her political beliefs.
That's a perfect example of how those unrealistic expectations are filtering into the dating world. We're seeing this trend of people looking for a partner who perfectly aligns with their values and lifestyle, rather than someone they can grow and learn with.
But wouldn't some shared values be important for a relationship to work? Especially if things get serious and you're thinking long term.
Of course, shared values are important, but it's also about being open to different perspectives.
Sure.
Having the ability to navigate disagreements respectfully. It's about understanding that growth often happens when our views are challenged.
So it's not necessarily about finding someone who's exactly like us, but rather someone who can complement and challenge us in a healthy way.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between compatibility and growth. Which can be tricky to navigate, in a world with so many options and unrealistic expectations.
One of the sources even mentioned this idea of gender polarization increasing in modern dating. I'm curious, what exactly does that mean?
Well, it refers to that widening gap between men and women's views, particularly when it comes to social and political issues. And this impacts dating because, people might seek out partners who share their political leanings, which further reinforces those divisions.
So it's almost like our political beliefs are becoming a filter for who we even consider dating, which makes sense in a way.
Yeah. I mean, our values and beliefs play a significant role in how we view the world and who we're drawn to. But it also raises some interesting questions about whether this polarization is hindering our ability to connect with people who hold different views.
It makes you wonder if, in our pursuit of finding someone who checks all the boxes,
we're
actually limiting our chances of finding genuine connection.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It leads us to another significant theme from the sources. This persistent search for the one.
Yes.
This idea that there's one perfect soulmate out there.
Right.
And we just need to keep looking until we find them.
Yeah, it's like a modern-day fairy tale. But does that mindset actually help or hurt us in the long run? Especially when we're bombarded with all these choices and conflicting messages.
That's a question worth exploring.
It is.
And to do that, I think we need to delve into the psychology behind this desire for the one. Why do we hold on to this belief so tightly? And what are the potential consequences of this relentless pursuit?
Okay, deep divers.
Yeah.
We're about to go even deeper into the complexities of modern dating.
Buckle up.
Stick with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back. And I think we're ready to unpack this whole the one concept. I mean, is it even realistic in the context of modern dating? What do you think?
Well, you know what's interesting about this idea of the one is that it can actually prevent us from recognizing potential partners.
Oh, really?
Who might be a great fit for us.
You mean like we're so focused on finding this like idealized person that we might miss out on
Exactly.
real imperfect connections right in front of us?
Precisely. We get so fixated on this image of perfection that we dismiss anyone who doesn't perfectly match that image.
One of the sources shared this story about a woman who was 40 years old and had never been in a relationship because she was waiting for the one.
Wow.
Yeah. It's kind of heartbreaking to think about all the opportunities for connection she might have missed.
It really highlights the pressure we often feel,
Yeah.
particularly women, to conform to those societal expectations around relationships and milestones.
Right.
You know, like if you haven't found the one by a certain age, then you're somehow failing.
And I can only imagine how social media amplifies that pressure.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everyone's posting these picture-perfect moments
Right.
from their relationships, which can make it even harder if you're not experiencing that yourself.
Absolutely. It creates this illusion that everyone else is just effortlessly finding their soulmate while
Yeah.
you're still searching. But it's so important to remember that those curated images rarely reflect the reality of relationships,
Yeah.
which are full of ups and downs, compromises, ongoing work.
So maybe instead of looking for this like mythical perfect person,
Yeah.
we should focus on becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yes.
And being open to connecting with people who are also on their own journey of self-discovery.
I completely agree. I think cultivating self-awareness,
Yeah.
understanding our own needs and values, and developing healthy communication skills are far more valuable than trying to find someone who just magically completes us.
That makes me think about all this talk about red flags in dating.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like everyone is just like constantly looking for any little imperfection,
Yeah.
ready to bail at the first sign of trouble.
It's true. There is this tendency to overanalyze every detail,
Yeah.
every quirk, every past mistake, and label it a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reality is no one is perfect.
Right.
And healthy relationships require a willingness to work through those challenges and those differences.
Well, yeah, I guess the challenge is figuring out which red flags are actually warning signs
Right.
and which are just like part of being a human being with flaws and imperfections.
Yeah. It's a tough balance.
Yeah.
It requires, I think, a shift in perspective.
Okay.
Instead of approaching dating with fear and this hyper-focus on avoiding pain,
Mm-hmm.
we need to cultivate a mindset of curiosity,
Okay.
empathy, and a willingness to be vulnerable.
One of the experts suggested looking for partners who are opposite to us in certain areas,
Oh, interesting.
like time management or assertiveness.
Okay.
They argued that this can create a more balanced dynamic within the relationship.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
It suggests that differences, when approached constructively, can actually strengthen a relationship.
Right.
So instead of seeking a mirror image of ourselves, we might be better off finding someone who complements our strengths and weaknesses.
It's like that saying opposites attract, but maybe it's more about finding a balance between similarity and difference.
Exactly. And it also highlights the importance of personal experience. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to dating or relationships. It's about figuring out what works best for you through trial and error. Yeah.
Through learning about yourself and what you truly value in a partner.
So what does all this mean for us as we try to navigate this complex world of modern dating? What are some key takeaways we should keep in mind?
I think the most important takeaway is that modern dating, despite its challenges, also presents us with these incredible opportunities.
Okay.
It's about finding a balance between embracing technology
Yeah.
and cultivating those real-world connections, between seeking compatibility and embracing personal growth, and between pursuing the one and appreciating the beauty of those imperfect connections.
It sounds like it's a lot about shifting our mindset.
Yeah.
And focusing on the things that we can control.
For sure.
Like our self-awareness, communication skills, and willingness to be vulnerable.
Absolutely. And that leads us to a final thought-provoking question
Okay.
for our listeners to consider.
All right, lay it on us. What's that final question we should all be thinking about?
Well, in a world of, endless choices and carefully curated personas, how do you cultivate genuine connection?
Yeah.
And is this whole idea of the one actually helping or hindering your search?
Ooh, those are big questions.
Yeah.
And they really get to the heart of what we've been talking about. It's like we have more options than ever before.
Right.
But it also feels like genuine connection is becoming harder and harder to find.
It's a paradox, right?
This is.
I mean, we're surrounded by potential connections.
Yeah.
Yet so many of us feel really alone.
Yeah.
And I think part of that comes from this constant pursuit of the one, this idea that there's this perfect person out there who's going to solve all our problems.
Like we're putting so much pressure on finding this like ideal partner that we forget to just connect with people on a human level.
Exactly. We're so busy swiping and searching for perfection
Right.
that we might miss out on those, unexpected connections that could actually turn into something real.
One of the sources said that Gen Z is undateable.
Oh, wow.
Because they're so afraid of getting hurt that they'd rather avoid relationships altogether than risk, going through a breakup. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
It says a lot about our culture, right? This trend of avoiding discomfort and vulnerability,
Yeah.
which are crucial for real intimacy.
It's like we're trying to sanitize our lives, eliminate any risk of pain.
Right.
But isn't that part of what makes life
Yeah.
Interesting and meaningful?
Absolutely.
The ups and downs, the challenges, the vulnerability.
That's where growth happens, right? In those uncomfortable spaces where we have to push ourselves.
Right.
And that's true in relationships, too. If we're not willing to be vulnerable, to risk getting hurt,
Yeah.
then we're also closing ourselves off to the possibility of deep and lasting love.
So it sounds like finding love today requires a balance.
Uh-huh.
We need to be smart about who we connect with, but also open to things we don't expect.
Yeah.
We need to use technology, but not let it take over.
Right.
And I think most importantly, we need to be willing to be ourselves and embrace the messy, imperfect beauty of just like real human connection.
Well said. It's about recognizing that the one might not be someone we find, but rather a love that we build.
Okay.
Through intention, vulnerability, and just being open to the journey, with all its ups and downs.
That's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
And I hope it's given everyone listening some new ways to think about modern dating.
Me too. It's an ongoing conversation,
Right.
and we're all part of it.
Exactly. And to everyone listening, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What stood out to you from our conversation? What are your experiences with modern dating like? Let us know. Keep the conversation going.
Remember, finding love is a journey.
It is.
Embrace the unknown, learn from your experiences, and don't give up on connection.
That's right. Until next time, deep divers, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep diving deep.